So I was able to go ahead and actually touch bases with the brand new StarHawk demo. Now, mind you, these are just my initial impressions. These has nothing to do with my final thoughts or anything like that. It's just so far I played the game like twice, three times, got used to the controller, played a little bit of gameplay, and my initial thoughts. So far, so good actually. Really. I mean, first of all, I started off playing the game by myself just to get used to the controller. So I was able to, excuse me, go ahead and play with the controller. It was actually pretty good. Believe it plays like Killzone. It took me a second to actually get used to it because I'm so used to Halo. So, excuse me. So I went ahead and tried some things out. I was able to finally um find the menu, the button that actually builds things. So I was like, okay, well, I'll see what this is about. So I go ahead and I was going to give it a try, right? So basically, it's actually pretty cool. So you go ahead and set things to build, right? And in a matter of seconds, something comes down and then it kind of like builds itself, and then bang, it's like, for example, say you wanted to, you can choose to have a garage. Now the garage automatically brings down a vehicle with it. So it's like, bang, the garage comes out and vehicle with. Now I was like, well, that's kind of odd. Why did they name the garage? So I assume that you can go ahead and repair vehicles in it or something like that. So far, I have not found a way to repair the vehicles. I tried to drive it back into the garage after I damaged it a little bit. It didn't work. That being said, there is like a little terminal down there, and what happened was I didn't drive it back in the terminal and then press the terminal button. Maybe that repairs it. I don't know. I haven't tried it yet. I'll tell you it when I play it again. So which will be in a couple of minutes. On that note, I ran into a problem. I was like, well, how do you build things again? Because all of a sudden it was telling me that I didn't have enough energy. And I was like, okay, so the energy is at the upper right hand corner. Well, how do you go ahead and do that? How do you get that energy back? So it wouldn't work at first. So I was like, all right, well, maybe I'll jump into a regular game and see how that flows. So I did jump into a regular game. So it did say matter. It did say like, you need to harvest or something like that. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe you need to sit down and harvest. Hey. So I started jumping to the game, and I instantly, as soon as you jump into a game, it was like bang. It was like, wait, what is that? Oh, now I understand the game. So basically, the harvest things like this. There's this little, like this power generator over here, right? It's usually, doing some green energy. And what happens is that the green energy actually flows into you, and thus that is what you're harvesting, and thus that is how your stuff, you start being able to make stuff. So in order to go ahead and get more stuff like that, you have to go ahead though and stay over there, and like you have to kind of get more energy. The closer you are, the closer and longer that you stay to the generator, the more that you'll go ahead and be able to gather energy at the rate. So that was actually pretty cool. Now, so I was able to build things, and and it's kind of cool, really, because you start off with like your base and then the power generator. And not even that, you start with your power generator, maybe like another building, depending if you're doing a capture the flag, and all of a sudden, bang, you got a big old base around. You actually get to build your base from the very go, and it was kind of cool. I'm like, okay, so I get to build my base. All right, so adding walls here, and then that's when you kind of run into a problem, because if you are playing a game where you're not really familiar with your team, these son of a bitches will build anywhere. You know, like there was one part where me and this guy came to pick me up, and I don't know the vehicle's name. I was gonna call it a Warthog, but that wouldn't be nice. So I jumped into the vehicle, right? It's a ground driving vehicle. So I jumped into it, and then I went off to go ahead with him to drive, because he was driving, I was on the Torrents. Yeah, it actually is like the Warthog. That's the reason why I said that. And what happened was like some guy built a wall almost around us, so it was almost hard for us to get around. Now, granted, we figured out how to get around. We drove up like we used the machine to drive up the mountain and kind of fly around the wall. So we figured out how to do it, but still it was like, okay, so now we got these guys building everywhere and anywhere. So granted, if you're going to play this game, you might want to make sure that you're playing with friends who know what they're doing. Um, I also got to try out and this is the part that blew my mind. All of a sudden, this guy brought down like this other building, right? And I didn't look at him at first. I saw him bring down the other building, and then I had to go ahead and like someone was over there, so I had to go kill him real quick. Which you gain experience points in the game, by the way. So I started shooting him, right? And I turned around. All of a sudden, the guy was flying away. I'm like, oh, okay, so that must be a spaceship port, a spaceport, if you will. Okay, so I went up there and I looked around, just kind of looked at the building I wanted to, and I'm looking at the definition of the buildings and things of that nature. And I was kind of impressed too, because I'm like, okay, well, this actually looks really good. So I'm looking around, I was on a planet, by the way, just to let you know. There was two boards, a planet and space. So I was only on a planet. So I'm looking around like, okay, this is really good, really good structure right here. So as I was walking past, I saw this is when I walked past the terminal and I saw something flash. It told me to hit the square button. So I went back to the terminal. Terminal says call forth I forget what it's called. Okay. So I hit the square button, and from the back, from like a little bit, I saw something appear. Turned around, it was this like big metal machine. I'm like, oh, okay. Let's go ahead and see what happens. I walked into it. It says hit square, jump into it. Hit square. That thing was a mech. I was like, okay, it's a mech. This is gonna get fun. So I'm walking around the mech. I'm trying to figure out what it does, and for the love of me, I kept jumping out the mech. But then I think I hit the circle button. I think it was, and that junk transformed. I was blown away. I was like Robotech for the win. So yeah, it really is Robotech. Just to be honest, just to be straight with you. So I'm sitting up playing it. Actually, it reminded me between Robotech and the mech that was on StarCraft. Actually, now I think about it, a lot of the things on there remind me of StarCraft. Huh? Like actually, now I think about it, the whole game reminds me of a first or a third person shooter StarCraft. So long story short, if you like StarCraft, you're gonna like this. If you like a multiplayer game and you like StarCraft, you're gonna like this game. My thoughts on it, I was like flabbergasted how good it was. This is my initial thoughts, by the way. I had a lot of fun. I played the space board and the world board, both of which I had a lot of fun. I mean, like it's kind of like it also kind of like the boards are pretty big too, so it's like also playing like Battlefield. So long story short, while the game is not like, do I see a game of the year? No. Not at least not at this point. I gotta say that. But that being said, is it a first day buy? Yes. Is it going to be a hell of a lot of fun? Yes. Or will you be playing it for a good while? Yes, because it is both a shooter and a strategy game. Like literally, the people on your team can literally make or break you, and that's one thing you got to see. There's a lot to it, but um, it's definitely something that you guys will definitely want to go check out. Without a doubt, I will go ahead and start dropping some more information later on the game, talking about a little more about it. You guys have a good night. Zeph out.